if I turn sparkly and everything else, just go along with it. Good morning. It's a great time to be here today and to share. And I was telling the staff, I said, on this last day, I would like to just share my sermon and the communion and the benediction and everybody else. Thank you, Meredith, and Marin for taking care of the other tasks this morning. Life is not a journey. Life is a journey, not a destination. Before I get into the message, okay, I'm going to just stop and try to deal with this. I think it may be where it was connected. Okay, we're good. I'll try not to move too much. Okay. Meredith, did you set this up? Before we get into the message, I want to take time to look back on a few things. Back in early January last year, Melissa called me and asked me if I would chair the committee to find the interim senior minister. Well, we learned fairly soon that there weren't a lot of options. One of the gentlemen was 75 years old and not in great health. Another had just retired and had decided to travel some, so he wouldn't commit to the full length of the interim, what we thought it might be. So I went home to share that with Lainey and was concerned about an interim coming in that would just maybe show up on Sundays and a little bit more, and I was just concerned that that would not be good for us to have that kind of experience, and particularly with the pandemic and everything else going on. Lainey looked at me and said, "Why don't you do it?" It never had entered my mind, but that sparked something in me, and we prayed and thought about it, and I reached out to Melissa and to Larry and talked with them, and eventually they asked me to come on in view of call as the interim senior minister. You know, I began when we were videotaping sermons. Lainey said to me, "You need to smile occasionally." I know I'm not made for the little screen or the big screen on talking straight into a camera. Fortunately, that all ended on May the 2nd. It's been an eventful 11 months. It's been a wonderful journey for me and Lainey. The night Larry called me to tell me that FCC was formally calling me to serve, I told Lainey, take a moment and remember this moment. I'll never be liked or appreciated more than tonight. She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "No one has heard me preach, and I haven't ticked anybody off yet." Well, what's not to like, you know? A couple of weeks ago, Lainey asked me if I still felt that way I did that night. And I answered no, and it's because of you. Because of your continued words of appreciation and support, you changed my perspective and literally changed my life. One update that I don't believe many of you are aware of, beginning tomorrow, I step into to serve as the interim senior minister at FCC Jeffersonville. Yes, where Amanda's coming from. Somebody asked me, do we have a secret handshake among ministers that we kind of move these things along? You know, I'll be gone for close to a year. Lainey has to find her rhythm between here and Jeffersonville. We don't know what that will look like. Lainey and I appreciate your prayers as we step into this challenging experience. You know, some of the sermon themes we've looked at over this last year, and some were contributions of yours. The series on Can You Hear Me Now? What Makes You Happy? Which had that horrible intro music every week for 5 weeks. There's No Place Like Home. 3 questions for better decisions, and so on. I'm extremely grateful for your generous comments and emails about my messages. What I found so remarkable was how specific your comments were. You know, they were so meaningful, and having served in ministry before, I got a lot of handshakes on the way out the door saying, "Good job, preacher." And none of these comments were like that. They're very, very thoughtful and meaningful. You know, you accepted and even affirmed my frequent use of videos. Kevin Bacon in City on a Hill, The Social Dilemma, Wizard of Oz, and the favorite of many of you, certainly mine, Ted Lasso. Life is a journey, not a destination. You know, most of our early lives and into adulthood, we have dates and milestones in mind. Each year, the beginning of school, the end of school, pointing toward graduation. Am I going to go to college? And if so, where? We look then toward when will I get married? And once married, we think, am I going to have children? If so, when? Well, these are destinations that sort of frame up our lives in days, weeks, months, and even years. We're conditioned toward destination thinking, not journey thinking. Destination thinking can result in us missing the moments and days that we travel on the journey. I have one last chance to mention Tom Brady on behalf of Laney. I actually thought about, Laney, of having his picture up on the screen, but I don't want any side-by-side comparisons. Here's a quote from Tom. The past and the future are in the mind. I am in the now. I think that is a great way to live life. I'm not thinking about many things beyond this week. Wow. What a focus. What an appreciation for the present. Experiencing life as a journey, it requires focusing on the now. Otherwise, we're likely to miss being in the now with our spouse, with our friends, with our kids and grandkids. You may miss experiencing the journey with our senses, the joy of taking time to really listen to your favorite music or to savor that meal of wonderful tastes and smells. If you find that you're thinking mostly of things next week, next month, or next year, you're likely missing the journey. In the series, Can You Hear Me Now? It included a message entitled, Failure is Not an Option, taken from the movie Apollo 13. It demonstrates the importance of working things out, using all of your resources, focused on the moment, centering on the moment. It was essential for the crew of Apollo 13. Otherwise, there would be no destination. So accomplishments are made in the moment. There's a period when Jesus was being challenged by Jewish leaders about theology. The Sadducees had been silenced by Jesus in his responses, so the Pharisees conjured up their own plan, and they were trying to trip up Jesus and pitting him against the law. Let's take a look at Matthew 22. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, love the Lord your God. Love your neighbor. Love is a journey word. It is not a destination word. When we hear the phrase, when we look at that love is this and love is that, and we look at kind of embracing the now, it's what we experience day by day. It's what we bring into the moments. Love is not something that we accomplish, that's some destination that we achieve with somebody. It's what is the flavor and life of moment by moment. When we hear the phrase, there's no place like home, we immediately visualize Dorothy, the lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow, and we don't want to leave Toto out. Dorothy and her partners were so focused on their destination. Along the way, they didn't recognize that the very things they were hoping to find at their destination, they had them all along in the journey. Let's look at a day in Jesus' life, a similar moment when the things were there, the gifts and the opportunities were in that moment. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but so the works of God might be displayed in him, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night comes when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Work day to day. Jesus remarks about night is coming when no one can work, but while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Focused on the moment, focused on healing this man and not some destination looking down the road. Work and light. Working when no one can do it at night. and light itself are journey words, not destination words. In the gospel according to Ted Lasso, and I made the caveat at the beginning of that message, we're not talking about the gospel. We're talking about a gospel, a way that this man tried to impact the world. There's some comments by Ted about his team, AFC Richmond, these young men that he was coaching. And there's some comments, a couple of comments I want to share here that were both to the team and to some others. He says, for me, success is not about the wins and losses. It's about helping these young people. I want you to know I value each of your opinions, even when you're wrong. And then this one I think is really special. I think if you care about someone and you got a little love in your heart, there ain't nothing you can't get through together. Well, getting through something is a part of the journey. It's not a destination. We get through things with people that we love and care about and that we are encouraging along the life's journey. In one episode, we find Ted and lots of other people in a pub. Now, Rupert is a gentleman who's the ex-husband of the owner of the club. He, in fact, finds a way to get back into ownership so he could be in the clubhouse and the owner's box and all of those things and sort of rub his ex-wife in a bad way, trying to agitate a little bit. Well, Rupert's in the pub and sees the opportunity to ask Ted for a game of darts. Well, they haggle for a moment and agree to some spoils related to the team. Ted proceeds to tell a story that one day he was taking his son to school and saw a sign with a quote from Walt Whitman, said, "Be curious, not judgmental." Let's look at the slide and follow along with some of his dialogue. As he's throwing darts, he tells the story. Guys have underestimated me all my life. All of those guys who used to belittle me, not a single one was curious. They thought that they had everything figured out, and so they judged everything, and they judged everyone. That they were underestimating me, who I was, had nothing to do with it. If they were curious, they would have asked questions like, "Have you played a lot of darts, Ted?" To which I would have answered, "Yes, sir, every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father." And he takes the last dart and hits a bullseye and brings the crowd down. Rupert is that kind of person that conjures stuff up and creates trouble, and Ted just took it head on in a calm, deliberate way. Curious is not a destination word. It's a journey word. Be curious, not judgmental. How difficult that is, but we know that a true journey is dependent on curiosity about people and places, about things we see along the way. Being curious, not judgmental, about people can make all the difference in what kind of journey you have and what kind of impact you have on others. Life is a journey, not a destination. Your journey and mine are heading for new experiences and new people. Amanda begins the journey with our church next week. My interactions with Amanda have been great. FCC Louisville is embarking on a different leg of its journey. May you flourish in new ways with curiosity for the journey and faith in Jesus Christ, who is the light along the way. Amen.